Hello, welcome to our talk. We've all got issues, and that's certainly very true after the last year that we've had. So, today we're going to look at a number of things. It's going to be myself and Seb. I'm an issue tracker hero. So, I work at Umbraco HQ and have done since February this year. But before that, I worked on the pull request team, where it was partly my responsibility to look at pull requests that come in, but also to look at issues as they come in, to triage issues, to work with them, and really to get to know the code base as a bridge between HQ and contributors to help speed up processes and to help create processes. And it was quite a journey. It was an awful lot of fun. And there was just a brief gap before I started working with HQ as an issue tracker hero. And Seb?
Yeah, I'm Sebastian. I am the head of pull requests, which is not the head of public relations, as people sometimes think. It was a joke. It was a joke. I've been with Umbraco for over 8 years now. Starting out when we were very small, I think I was the fifth or sixth person working at Umbraco. Originally from Holland, moved to Denmark, and really loving Denmark still. I've been working on basically everything at HQ over the years. So I started out as a project manager for the core of Umbraco, then also did some development. Then uh, uh, I got involved in Umbraco TV and an hour Umbraco and all kinds of things. And then in the last few years, I've been concentrating only or mostly on pull requests and issues, helping Emma be the true issue tracker hero since February as well.
I like to think that we're both heroes.
Thank you.
I'm a hero in training, I'll take
Yeah,
that.
there you go.
And the picture's actually taken from a Codegarden retreat where we decided that there would be a PR team, I believe.
This is true, yes.
This is a part of our history too.
Yes, exactly.
So today we're going to look at a number of things. First of all, we will take a look at where we find ourselves on the issue tracker today. So what does the journey look like for somebody submitting an issue? How do we manage it internally? How do we get back to you, and what happens next? We're also going to take a look at how we've been working behind the scenes, because that's something that we know really well, but perhaps it will be news to you. We'll take a look at the processes that we have currently in place, the ones that are in place basically to ensure that all of your issues are addressed in a timely fashion, in an appropriate fashion, and allowing you to know what's happening every step of the way. We'll take a look at the tools that we use in detail and at some of the back-end tools that we have in place to keep us doing what we need to be doing, give you an insight into how they were built and why they were built. And we're also going to take a look at what's coming next on the issue tracker. So how has it been going? Well, the issue tracker might not be seen as a particularly glamorous place, but I like to think of it as the heart of the CMS. So as with any good open source project, an awful lot of our discussions with community take place on the issue tracker, on and around the issue tracker. So the issue tracker is somewhere where you might want to leave a bug report, which is the most obvious kind of engagement you would have with the issue tracker and with GitHub for us. But it's not entirely bugs. So we also have feature requests on the issue tracker, and these can be much longer journeys. When somebody submits a feature request, there are different processes in place, and I'll cover some of those coming up. So we have feature requests and issues. We'll also have comments, we'll have ideas, questions quite often can live there. So it's one bucket that holds many, many things. And as a result of that, our numbers don't always look great. So when you see the number of issues we have, it doesn't reflect the number of bugs that have been reported. It reflects the amount of engagement we have around the software, which is super exciting. It also means that we need to work super hard to sort things into the right place. So as the internal pull requests also go to the same place as community, the internal issues go to the same place as the community issues, it's really, really important for us as a team to have a process in place for dealing with one kind and the other, and then to address each one as it comes up and filter accordingly. We've created a handful of tools to make that work. And being techies, a lot of them are technical tools, but some of them are process driven. We're going to tell you about the technical tools, and we're also going to talk to you about some of the processes. So on a good day, how does this process look? And I say on a good day because not all issues are the same. But if, for instance, we are given a standard issue to look at, it could be a bug report or it could be a feature. The options are not limited to just those two, but we'll take a look at those two for this example. First of all, we reach out and we say thank you for submitting the issue. Any engagement on GitHub is really, really welcome. If you are dropping us an issue to say that something's broken, that might not sound like good news, but we're grateful because it's the information that we actually need to then move things forward. We're going to then label the issue. Labeling the issue in GitHub, we actually set up labels, and we do that based on the categories that we see most. So we'll label the issue based on the kind of report that we're dealing with at the time. So in this case, we'll label feature or bug, but there may be other labels that are applied, and we'll look at those a bit later on. We will respond to you with any questions. So if, for instance, you've told us that there is a problem, but not told us the version, we'll reach out and ask you for the version. We might ask you if it happens on a clean install. We'll do our very best to gather information from you. It's at this point that things can slow down a little because we're communicating asynchronously. So whilst we might send you something at 4 p.m. on one day and you get back to us at 9, it can, there's always going to be that gap. So at this point, when you answer promptly, we're super happy because we can then move forward. So if it's a bug, we will try to reproduce the issue, and we'll do that based on the information that you've given to us. So you've told us the version, you've told us where it is, and you've given us steps to reproduce. If we can reproduce it, then it's quite a cut and dry case and we'll know that it's a bug. But if it's a feature, there's so much more to discuss. So we'll send the issue to the relevant HQ team for discussion. We'll also take part in that discussion. So if it's a front end or UX issue, we know exactly where to send it, and then we get involved in how to address it. So we'll have a chat with the team, we'll have meetings internally, and then it will be our job as a team to get back to you to let you know what we've discussed. And that's what we do next. So we write to you and we let you know the outcome of this discussion. And sometimes that will be, absolutely, we love this idea, this feature is great, we would love for you to build it. Let's talk how, let's talk ideas. It might be, this isn't the direction that we see it going in, or we haven't considered a certain use case. Can we talk some more? There's often, can we talk some more? And you'll get used to that. We will label again as up for grabs if it's ready to be worked on. So when that up for grabs label is placed, that means that the community are free to work on it. We'll also quite cheekily ask if you fancy working on it, because often the best person to solve the issue is the person who raised the issue in the first place. You've already done so much research, you're really au fait with the bug or the feature that you're requesting, and the discussions on the issue will give great guidance for anybody else who might want to pick it up. So it all serves as a record and as a roadmap for moving forwards. When it's resolved, you will be updated, and that's automated, that's built into GitHub. So if a PR is raised that mentions the issue number, that's tied to the issue number, then you will find out when the issue is resolved. So what if we don't get the answers that we need? Sometimes we'll take the feature and we will speak to a team, but we don't have enough information. So once again, we'll come back to you. And then if we still don't have enough information, there's every chance that the issue will be closed. This is because we need lots of guidance from the people who are raising it in the first place. The last thing we want to do is ask for something to be built that isn't the spec that was even desired in the first place. We might not give back the answers that are needed too. Perhaps I'll speak to a team and they'll say, well, we're not really sure and we're not in a position to make this decision right now based on the progress that the product is already making or what else is going on for the team and for the CMS. If that happens, we will be speaking to you every step of the way. So it might go quiet for a while, but these things still live in a to-do list, in a place where we can come back to them and make a decision. And we have internal workflows to make sure that nothing's ever lost. It might be quiet for a while, though. There's also the outcome that is, we don't like this idea. And it doesn't mean it's a bad idea. It could be a fantastic idea. It's just that it's not something that we see working for the majority of people that use the CMS. A use case could be too specific, or it could be something that won't build when we move on to a newer feature and a newer feature. So in this case, we'll write to you and we'll let you know that it's not really something that we're looking at. And that's for you to then take and start a new issue with a new idea and something that we all love just as much. So there's also the outcome, which is that the issue is labeled but not picked up as a pull request. And there are quite a few issues that are ready to be picked up for a pull request. And I'm very glad to tell you that today, because we have noticed that just after Codegarden, people do start contributing quite a lot. And they're all there labelled up for grabs. Now, if that issue stays as an up for grabs issue for a year, then we'll look to start closing that issue. And that's due to our release cadence at the moment and certainly going forward. But an issue raised 365 days ago, the likelihood is that it's not as relevant. We will close the issue and you will have an opportunity to reopen the issue if you feel that it's still entirely relevant. So one of my favourite things that we implemented is the friendly Umbraco robot. And it's probably my favourite thing for two reasons. And one is that we didn't really want to have any bots at all. So it was a resignation, and one that has brought us actually an awful lot of time and has made us quite happy. The other reason I quite like the friendly Umbraco robot is that I find it really difficult not to anthropomorphize the bot and think of the bot as human. So if I refer to the bot as a person here, I apologize in advance. But basically, we love our bot. We were reluctant to use it because we felt that we were friendly people, and we wanted the experience of every contributor to be one where they engage with people. People that say thank you, people that let them know what's going to happen next. But it really wasn't a scalable solution. And we learned that after a year of working in the pull request team. An awful lot of our time was spent saying thank you, but not actually having the time to work on an issue or a pull request. So we feel that our bot frees us up to spend time working on the things that really matter to our contributors. We use the bot in circumstances where something needs explaining that can be easily explained in a handful of points. A really good example is the message that you'll get when your issue is labelled up for grabs. So if you have an issue, you've submitted an issue and it's been labelled up for grabs, internally, we know that means the community are free to work on this issue and raise a pull request and link it to this issue. We're happy to go forward. But if you're new to Umbraco, or if you're not looking at things that way, you will submit an issue and we label up for grabs, and that might mean nothing to you. In comes our friendly bot who comes in and says, here's what happens next, now that it's up for grabs. Now, because Sebastian and I are a little bit cheeky and we want to ask people submitting issues to perhaps consider submitting a pull request for the issue, we have handed over that to the bot. So the bot will give you a friendly little nudge, just saying to you, great, your issue is ready to work on. If you want to do it, you certainly can. Sadly, the bot also has to be the baddie sometimes, and this comes into play when the bot will reach out and say that your issue has been around for a long time and we'd like to close it. So, as I mentioned before, an issue that's been around a long time and hasn't been picked up to be worked on or hasn't had the discussion resolved, things move pretty quickly in tech, and they certainly move pretty quickly for us these days.
Mhm.
We would say that perhaps it's no longer relevant. Rather than write to everybody who has an issue that's 365 days old, your friendly robot guide will step in and say, hey, is this still relevant? We're going to close it. But it will also do the kindness of saying, if you do want to keep it open and if it is relevant, please go ahead and reopen.
Let's get technical. The spaghetti wires that you see here on the right side are kind of an illustration of what our code for several parts of this looks like at the moment. It works. There's some improvement to be done, and we're working on that. So in grand overview, what we do is we get all the juicy data that we can get from the GitHub APIs and store that locally, and then transform that data for a useful overview for us to look at every day. And we do that also with a little help from our robot friends. So after we've got that data, we can also determine that we need to post some stuff. Yes. First, we need to get all the data that we can get from GitHub. They actually provide all of the data that you can see publicly and a little bit more in their APIs. We're currently using the GitHub REST API, which is a little bit old, but it works for us. You can see on the right side here that we have quite a few issue trackers that we keep track of. GitHub itself doesn't have an overview or a good grand overview of different trackers. So we have combined all the open source or the open trackers, the public trackers, together in a dashboard. That means that we can see everything going on, not just one repository at a time. As I said, we use the REST API, which is a bit old. We're moving to GraphQL now, and we're also moving to .NET 5. This is currently a website that is created in Umbraco 8, but we'll move that to Umbraco 9 as well, so we could also get some experience with using our brand new version of the CMS that's coming up. The dashboard on the right side, you can see, is using Hangfire. Hangfire is a super nice tool for scheduling jobs that you can make recurring. This also helps us keep an overview of if they succeed and what goes wrong. So we don't have to rely on logging. We have a nice little dashboard that's built right into Umbraco. Super handy and super good tool. Been very reliable. I think the last time I checked, it's been running for a long time, and it's been doing 2 million jobs in that time that it's been running. So it's been pretty stable. Yep, from all that stuff that we get from GitHub, we can present the data. We use it's an Umbraco install, so we use some views and a bit of route hijacking to do the presentation. What you could see on the screen here on the top right would be the number of pull requests coming in. So that's number of open pull requests, new contributors, and then the created, merged, and closed pull requests in this month. It's a nice little overview so that we can keep track of while we're squashing pull requests. We can see these counters changing for the better. And at the bottom, you see our overview of in what state all of the different issues are that are open. So that's the issue tracker at the bottom, not pull requests. And we can follow these from left to right, and hopefully everything will move quite smoothly from left to right to from new to in one of our sprints. Or maybe we put them up for grabs and then they fall off of this dashboard, which is also fine. And then they'll move to the pull request dashboard as soon as there's a pull request, of course. Currently, these are all JSON files that we're caching. You can, and even worse, we're making one JSON file for each issue. As you can tell from the issue numbers in GitHub at the moment, there is about 10,000 issues open for, or not open, sorry, 10,000 issues created for Umbraco. So that's 10,000 files, which is starting to become difficult to manage. And not only that, we're running out of memory and things like that. So we found Azure Cosmos DB, which deals with JSON very beautifully, and it's perfectly fit for our purposes here, and much better and easier to query. So we're moving to that as well. So we're creating a very modern stack. I've actually been using it on Ubuntu instead of Windows as well, just because I like to challenge myself. Yeah, one other good thing to note is that you might not see a lot of the Umbraco HQ team on this list, is because they already know what's going on with the issues that they post on the issue tracker, so we don't need to show them. So that's one other thing that GitHub doesn't offer us. They can't filter on. We don't want to see this team, so we have to do that ourselves, which is fine, and it works for us. Yes, some more info on the friendly Umbraco GitHub bot that we have. We are actually using Umbraco for what it's for. We're doing content management for that bot. So all the comments that will appear on the issues and the pull requests are coming actually from Umbraco, which is quite fun that we've been able to do that. That was implemented by the original core collaborators team, and I think Anders, Punima, and Emma worked on that on this feature, and well done. You can see here that there's something with Curly's issue owner and Curly's issue number in the text, which gets replaced. You can also see that we have multiple comments for the same thing here. That's because we wanted to add a little bit of variety, so it looks a little bit more random and a little bit more human than just posting the same reply all over and over again. So currently we've got the first reply to pull request, that's this one. We've got stale issues, we've got up for grabs indeed, and we're also running after Hacktoberfest the notifications for that, because we need to notify people and ask them what their t-shirt size is or if they want to plant a tree. So yep, that's it's super nice. Works with Hangfire again, so it posts on a schedule and it checks on the schedule if it needs to do anything.
Back to me, we did say that we were going to give you some exciting news about what's in store for the future. Hopefully I can deliver in terms of excitement. The issue tracker as it stands is one big bucket of many things. So recently we've been discussing ways that we can streamline the tracker, not to help us or to make our workload lighter, but to make it a better experience for our contributors too. And that's really important for us, because the issue tracker may well be the first place that a developer engages with. So we want to make sure from the very start they have a good experience with us. So the first thing that we've explored and we've been fortunate enough to implement is a look at GitHub templates. So that's something that's in pre-release, but Sebastian was picked to trial the templates. And so we're very happy to have implemented them on our CMS repository. So now when you go to submit an issue, you'll be faced with this screen. Now this screen itself is nothing new, but this is the first stage of the streamlining. So at this point, you decide whether you're reporting a bug or a feature. And again, we'll take a look at bugs and features in this example, because that's where we've implemented the templates. So you'll be looking at bugs and features. And we've chosen bug just to look at for now. So you'll remember that the original interaction issue is a huge empty space where you can enter free text. It's great, it allows for lots of creativity, but quite often when you're working on a problem or an issue, you forget that there's things you know that we don't know. And as I mentioned previously, quite a lot of time can be taken up in just asking rather basic questions to the person reporting the issue. So if you're not thinking, what do they need to look at this issue, you won't necessarily be able to provide it. So we aim to cut down that initial gap between the first report and us being able to manage your issue by implementing a form. So you now you put your issue into a form with real guidance in there. So we've got mandatory fields, which means that if you forget that we're going to need a version number, you will be reminded upon submit. And it breaks down your issue report into the stages that we absolutely need to then move forward. It's not restrictive, there's still story, and we hope it still allows you the space to express yourself as freely as you need to, but it can really cut down that first time period significantly for you. And we've already had some really good feedback, because this is not just something we're using externally, we're using it internally too. And we've had some colleagues tell us that they like it. That's a great start. A super exciting thing to talk about is the GitHub discussions. Now, again, this is very, very new and something that we're setting up at the moment. And what we aim to do is create a section where discussions can live, so that all the ideas and all of the brilliant feature requests, rather than being on the issue tracker where we see, as a place where we solve problems, we'll have it in the discussion section, and that will be somewhere that you can talk about your ideas, you can talk with HQ, you can talk with other community members. At a point where the idea is fully fleshed out and there's been enough input, we can then bring it back over and raise it as an up for grabs, so that you're then able to start working on the idea, but with as much guidance from HQ as possible. And this means that the idea can be merged, the idea will be accepted, because it's of course been through this pre-approval process where everybody's seen it that needs to see it. And we think that's a really exciting place for people to have their discussions too, and that's something that has been on our minds for a while, and we're really keen to get set up.
Yeah.
Finally, for future stuff, we've just implemented a new role for our pull request bot. The pull request bot steps in after you've submitted a pull request, and it's a note to those reviewing the pull request, but also to you, to let you know what's going to happen next. And it's got this handy checkbox approach, because we realize that checkboxes work for astronauts and they work for surgeons, so they probably work for contributors. And this reminds the people looking at your pull request that these are the steps we go through before it's merged, but it also lets you know what's happening while we're working with your pull request. So we think it's a really nice way for the bot to get involved, tell you everything you need to know, and just give you that bit of reassurance that things are happening behind the scenes. So thank you for listening to us today. We're super excited for the future. Basically, having a dedicated space for ideas is going to be wonderful for all of us, and introducing new ways of creating discussions. And we hope that with all these changes, your issues are going to be so streamlined that we can get to them as quickly as possible, and that we can have really rich and exciting discussions around the things you raise.
Bye.
So that just leaves us to say bye. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Bye.